This is my family right here. I am mama to these 9 right here. It is the absolute most joyous thing of my life to have been mom to these kids. I love being a mom, and it is just the greatest honor that I could have ever had. This was in 2016 at my oldest son's wedding. Um, Probably one of the last times that we were able to all get together, because as the kids get older and they move here and there, it's just really difficult to get everyone together. But this was a beautiful day in our family, my oldest son's wedding, and we have the whole family right here. So, like I said, that was a few years back. Right there, okay. So here's a little more updated picture of everyone. It's me, my husband Ray, Ren, Katie, Shay, Rhett, Carly, Kyle, and then Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron, which is why we are here today. On December 17th of 2021, my son Christopher had a basketball game in Monroe, Louisiana. And we are from Louisiana, by the way. We're from southern Louisiana. And so it was the kids' last day of school before the Christmas break, and they took their exams that morning, and around noon we headed to Monroe, which is about 4 hours from where we live. So it was a long drive. So we went that way. Christopher had his basketball game, and they won. They were undefeated, which is quite a miracle for our little school. And it was all good. We went to Subway after the kids were hungry, and we proceeded home. We left the Subway at 7:06 that night, and then we proceeded to go home. And about halfway home, we were hit by a drunk driver. And my youngest 3 children, Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron, lost their lives that night. So this is why we are here. I just want to tell you about our story. So this is my Lindy. Lindy was 20 years old at the time of the crash. She was our memory maker. She videoed, photographed, and documented everyday life. She was a sophomore at Nicholls State University. She was in school at the time for marketing, and she had just landed her dream job there in November of 21. She had got hired as the campus photographer, and she was supposed to start that position in January of 22. However, that day never came for her. She was the most creative person I have ever known. She was a brilliant photographer. She took so many pictures that were just well above, her talent was well above her age. I mean, she was literally born to be a photographer. It was truly her gift from God. So even though she was in school for marketing, I think, I'm not sure of his position at the university, but the one that had hired her was getting ready to take her under his wing. And he said he was just so impressed with the talent and the creativity that she had, that he was going to just guide her and direct her to exactly where she could benefit most as she graduated, because she was just such a gifted young lady. She just truly was our memory maker. She captured everyday events from our family, for just as long as I can remember her being old enough to have a camera. There were many videos of her and Cameron would go into Walmart, and they would find a little spot where nobody was, and we just have so many videos of them dancing in an aisle and cutting up, just being sisters. We have pictures of her and Cameron at the eye doctor. Cameron has the little thing over her eye, and she's trying to read, and Lindy's on the down low filming. This girl can't read. These things are just, you don't really take the meaning of them until you lose someone. And I mean, who would ever expect to lose children at these ages who were just so completely full of life? And Lindy loved life. And I mean, she lived each moment to the fullest. I mean, there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think, what would she be doing today? What would they be doing today? At 20 years old, she would come home from college. First thing she would do is come sit on my lap and tell me all about the things. And her dad would say, Lindy, get off your mom. You're too heavy. And I was like, nope, don't, just stay right here. Just stay right here. I loved it. It brought such joy to me. She is the reason that my daughter Katie was able to get our story out to the public so well, because Lindy had just so many videos and pictures and things that we were able to share. And people from around the world see something and they'll message us and say, oh, just remind us of Lindy. This is just so Lindy. So, and it was just such a blessing to me, because losing them was just such a loss for our family that I just didn't want them to be forgotten. They were just such good, special kids that I just needed, as their mama, I just needed their memories to be, for them to be remembered. She was an amazing artist. This is just a few of the little pictures that she had drawn. We have a pending nonprofit, and this is one of the ways that our nonprofit makes money. We have sent her artwork literally around the world. And it's just such an honor to me that someone, you know, from all over the United States and all over the world would have my Lindy's artwork on their wall. So she filmed everything. She even filmed her drawing this picture right here. So it just showed her process of what she would do. I mean, she literally was a memory maker. So that's a little bit about her. And this is my Christopher. Christopher was 17 years old at the time of the crash. Christopher was a remarkable young man. He was very academically inclined. He was well on his way to being valedictorian of his class. He had scored a 26 on the ACT at the time of the crash, and he was striving for a 32. I have no doubt that he would have accomplished that goal. Christopher had his future planned out meticulously. He thought things out very well before he made a decision. I have raised 9 teenagers. I have never experienced a teenager with the maturity that this child had. Whatever he set his mind to, he put in the work and did what he had to do to achieve that goal. He was also an amazing athlete. He won the first team All-State basketball award that year, as well as the Golden Glove Award for baseball. The crash happened when he was a junior in high school, and his senior year, he was also going to play football as well. He and I shared a love for sports. We spent many hours outside in the yard throwing the baseball, playing basketball. It's just a time I will just always treasure those memories with him.
Lindy documented it.
And Lindy documented. We have videos of us throwing the baseball in the yard. When I tell you, this girl, Christopher wasn't as willing of a participant for her videography skills, but she aggravated him enough to where he would usually just give in and let her do it. But I tell you, if I could say, Lord, I would love a son, and I would love him to be this, and this. I'm telling you, Christopher checked every single box. He was just, he was known for his integrity. If Christopher gave you your word, you could count on it. I mean, he was like an old soul. He was just a pleasure and a joy and a kind person. He wanted to go to college to be a software engineer, to follow in his brother Ren's footsteps. And he had already designed a video game. He was already taking coding classes. At 16, he had a Robinhood account. I mean, he was just an old soul. He was just very mature and just had everything about his future planned meticulously. He was a beautiful boy. Press it again. Okay. 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 So this is his little girlfriend, Marissa. She was in the crash with us as well. Her and I were the only two to survive. And even at their young age, Christopher was 17, she was 16 at the time of the crash. I have absolutely no doubt that they had already talked about getting married. They actually told me they were going to beat me, they were going to have 10 kids. So, when you think about that, I mean, it's funny, but the loss of losing these kids and the grandkids and the weddings, it's so difficult. But he was an amazing young man. And this is my baby girl, Cameron. Cameron was 15 at the time of the crash. She was 41 days short from her 16th birthday, 41 days short from getting her driver's license. Cameron was the kindest child I have ever met. When she saw people hurting, her little heart literally broke. A lot of times we would be leaving Walmart or somewhere, and every now and then you see someone with a sign, going through rough times, maybe needing a meal, just needing a helping hand. If I didn't have money in my purse, she would demand, Mom, go to the money machine. Like, you have to help them. Like, it literally broke her little heart when she saw people in need. Um, she was my little songbird. Um, I would get home from work, and we did a lot of practice driving because she had a permit. So when I would get home from work, the first thing she'd say was, Mom, let's go drive, let's go drive. And most of the time we'd go to Katie's house just to kind of give her a little practice driving. And she would get in the car, put her seatbelt on, get her little playlist in, and that girl would sing from the time we would leave home to the time we would get back. She had the most beautiful little singing voice, but she never had the confidence in herself to do it except in a car or by herself at home. But I tell you, it's one of the things I truly, truly miss today. For a long time, I drive alone most of the time now because the kids are not here. But I would look for her. I would look to the side and just long to hear that girl sing because we had just did it so much that year. But she was a beautiful, beautiful, kind child. She was a cheerleader. She played softball, and she wanted to go to college. She was a sophomore in high school at the time of the crash, but her dreams were to go to college to be what her big sister Katie did, because we would go visit Katie often. Katie lives at home. She works for Christus. So that, we just saw one of the hospitals here. And we went to see Katie one day, and Katie was doing her work and doing a little facial steam at the same time. So Cameron was a self-care girl. She loved all the things self-care. So when she saw her sister doing a facial while she was working,
hair up in a towel,
hair up, she was all in. So they definitely wanted to follow in their older siblings' footsteps. But she was a sweetheart, just a sweetheart of a child. So that's just a little background about them to give y'all an idea of who they were. am I now? What if I'm someone I don't want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm out? What if I'm down? What if I'm someone you won't talk about? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What am I now? What am I now? What if I'm someone I don't want around? I'm falling
Busting in the face.
I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm out? What if I'm down? What if I'm someone you won't talk about? I'm falling again. So that's just a little bit about them. They were some remarkable children who could have contributed so much to this world.
So here's where the emotional part is, and I'm already crying. So I usually tell about the night because my mom doesn't have any memory from that night, and I always put my text messages up to my best friend because this is my best friend of 20 years, and her and I are like sisters. So as the night was unfolding, I was keeping her updated. So I'll just leave them up there and tell how the night went. So it was December 17th. My husband and I were at his brother's house for a Christmas party. And my phone rang at 10:29, and it was my dad. And my dad usually doesn't call, so I thought that was weird. I stepped away and he said, "Hey, mom's been in a crash. It doesn't look too good, but they said she's stable." And I said, "Okay, where are you? I'm on the way." And he said, No, it's foggy. I don't want you to have to worry with your kids." And I said, "No, my kids are with their grandma. Where are you going? Where are you?" He said, "She's at Lafayette General." I said, "I'm on the way." Um, my husband and I got in the car. I drove. He had been drinking, so I drove. And pulled into the hospital at 11:05. And as I was entering the parking garage, I saw my dad and my brother Shay, who's the one right under me, frantic. And I rolled down the window, stopped. I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Facebook is saying there's 2 fatalities in the crash." And I said, "Well, y'all don't even know if that's the same wreck." Y'all, I was in denial. And I walked to the emergency department once I parked, and I asked, "Do y'all have Dawn Simmons, Lindy, Christopher, Cameron, Marissa?" They said, "We only have Dawn and Marissa." And that was really confusing to me. Why wouldn't they all be at the same hospital if they were all in the same crash? And honestly, I was never worried about them because if my mom was stable, of course, 3 young, healthy children would survive a crash. Never once thought something like this had happened to them. And about 10 minutes after getting there, my dad got a call from Louisiana State Police and let him know that the young blonde driver and the driver of the other car were both deceased. And still, until someone told me this person, Lindy Simmons, Cameron Simmons, passed away, I didn't believe it. My dad starts crying. We start making phone calls. I'm just trying to find where my other siblings are because in my mind, they were alone. My parents were both at this hospital. I needed to get to them. So the state trooper had told my dad, "My best guess is that they're at a hospital called Opelousas General because that's the closest hospital to where the crash happened." I called Opelousas. They said, "No, we don't have anyone by that name." Well, in the meantime, my mother-in-law arrived. She said, "Get in the car. We're just going to go to Opelousas. If that's our only lead, let's go there." Because as you can see, my best friend was spitting out. She was on Google Maps, finding every hospital in the area until we covered every one, and no one had them. We were even going as far as New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Just maybe they were airlifted. Couldn't find them. So on the way to Opelousas General, I decided to call one more time, and I said, look, I know y'all don't have anyone by these names, but do y'all have anyone that was in a crash? She said, yes, you can come identify her. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you can come tell me if you know her. So I said, okay. And when we got there, I could only find a security guard, and I explained to him, look, I think my sister's here. And, they said the young blonde driver passed away. That would have been Lindy because she had blonde hair. She was driving. So I was fully expecting to find Lindy. So when the physician came out, I explained to him, or do you have anyone here? And he said, look, the young lady that I have here has expired. He said, can you tell me what she looks like? And I couldn't even get the words out. So my husband said, just show him a picture. So I showed him a picture of both girls, and he said, come with me. And I lost it when he said that because I knew what that meant. And when I got to the back, we walked into a room, and there was a white body bag, fully zipped up. This was at 12:30. She passed away at 10:33. So they gave no time for the family to get there or anything. So when he unzipped it, I asked my mother-in-law, I said, who is it? And she said, it's Cameron. So I called my dad and I told him, I said, Dad, they got it wrong. It's Cameron. He said, oh my God, Cameron. So then my mother-in-law said, can you please help us find the other two? Now we're in fight or flight. We got to get to the other two. And at that time, I also asked him, I said, are you sure y'all did everything? I said, because she looks fine, which I only saw from her chest up. And he said, by the time she got here, she was almost gone. He said, there was nothing we could have done. He said, all 4 of her limbs were broken, open fractures at that. He said that she didn't have a chance. So he left and he came back and he said, okay, I found your brother. He said he's at Bunkie General, which is a hospital about 20 minutes from where we were. I said, thank God he's okay. I said, well, I know he's not okay, but at least he's alive. And he said he's not. And then I said, well, what about my sister? And he said, she's still stuck in the car. I said, is she alive? He said, no. So in a matter of 5 minutes, I learned that all 3 of my siblings were gone. So he told me, he said, we're going to need you to go to Bunkie General and identify your brother's body. They don't have any of his information. I don't think I can ever explain what that ride was like. Because on the way to Opelousas, I still had hope. But on the way to Bunkie, it was gone. So I got to Bunkie General and they walked me to the back. And he hadn't been legally pronounced dead yet. So they were unable to remove the tubes and everything. But he passed away at 11:06. He had the best shot. We still wonder if they would have been able to be airlifted. Would they have made it? We know Lindy wouldn't have. She died right away. But the airman couldn't fly that night. It was too foggy. And where they crashed at was in the middle of nowhere. They were 45 minutes in between 2 level 2 trauma hospitals. She was taken to a level 2, and Christopher, well, one thing we never understood is why they were all taken to separate hospitals. And as we got to meet the paramedics, we understood why. Christopher's paramedic, his name was Tyler, and he said he's from the Alexandria area, which is close to a level 2 trauma center called Rapides. And he is very familiar with that area. And he said, if he would have ran into like a train or something and he needed to divert, he could get around it quicker. And he was on his way to that hospital when he coded. So he had to divert and go to the nearest hospital. And the same thing happened with Cameron, but she was on her way to the same hospital as my mom, both in 2 opposite directions. But I remember walking in to see Christopher, and he had perfect teeth. He had just gotten his braces off, and I remember seeing the intubation tube in his mouth, and his little teeth clamping on him, and his nose was really, really purple. But other than that, he looked perfect. So everything was internal. What killed him? And this is the car. This is the car at the scene of the crash. I believe maybe a firefighter took the crash, and then in the other picture you can see their little subway cups. Life just instantly stopped. We later found out that they think the drunk driver was at a rest stop on Interstate 49 and he merged on the wrong way. He was in his underwear and he was 3 times the legal limit, almost 3 times the legal limit. His alcohol level was 0.22. He wasn't buckled, so he was ejected from his truck and he died instantly as well. And this is my mom in the hospital. I believe this was the first day that I saw her, which was December 19th, because the 18th I was talking to funeral homes. Just I don't even hardly remember that day. It's pretty much a blur. But the 19th is when I was able to see my mom for the first time, and I was also blessed to get to tell her about the kids. It wasn't supposed to fall on me. We had a plan in place that all the kids, once everyone was flown in, we'd all get together and tell her at the same time. But when I walked in, even though she was barely conscious, the first thing she asked me when she saw me was, "Where are the kids?" You want to tell them about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can kind of remember coming in and out of consciousness when I was in ICU, and I would just ask one of the kids or my husband, like, "Where's the kids?" But I was just too broken physically, and I would just kind of go in and out of consciousness. But I can remember one time they told me, "Mom, just worry about yourself." And I thought a minute, I'm like, "Well, that's not the answer I'm looking for. Why am I not hearing Christopher's in room 210 with a broken arm, broken leg?" Like, but I was just too physically broken to be able to take the information in. And I tell you, one of the things that I'm so thankful for, which is crazy, is that I was so severely injured, because I could not have taken the weight of the loss of those 3 kids had I been in my whole self. These 3 were the babies, so I didn't have any other children behind them. So I was able to pour my heart, my soul, my life into these last 3 in a way that I couldn't do for the older ones, because I was spread so thin. I just could not have handled that in my full body. So believe it or not, I was thankful to be able to have taken that information in incrementally. So why I survived, I shouldn't have. I tore both carotid arteries. I had splenic laceration, collapsed lung, many rib fractures. My sternum was fractured. I had 3 of my limbs were broken. I had my right leg was really broken severely. I am so blessed to be able to walk today. I was confined to a wheelchair for many months, a lot of rehab. It took me a long time to recover. Like I said, I'm just so thankful to be able to walk. These physical things are very minor compared to the heartache that we have to live through every day. You know, we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary. 8 days from now will be the 2-year anniversary from the crash. And I can't help but think back 2 years ago and knowing now what was coming. December is an extremely hard month. I got out of the hospital on December 26th. and to come home to that house, Christmas tree up, all their presents under the tree. Um, it was just unbelievable. It was numbing. Like I was just broken in every single way possible, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every way that you can be broken. I felt I had been broken in every way. This is January 3rd of 22. The crash was on December 17th. They had to collaborate with the doctors to try and figure out when we would be able to have the funeral. So the funeral, they had figured it all out, they had decided on the funeral to be January 4th. This is January 3rd. This is the day before the funeral. This was at a funeral home where we got to go and view them for the first time. I tell you, I was in the wheelchair, standing behind that door, knowing what was behind those doors, what I was about to see, was the most devastating and hopeless feeling I have ever felt in my life. Just think, everyone here, think of your three closest people that you know, people that you love. I love these kids. People that you do life with, people that you talk to every day, people who you call when you need, people who you can count on, your people. And just imagine, 9:01 they here, 9:02 they're gone. This was just unbelievable to me. And the thing is, when these things happen, 9:01 they here, 9:02 they gone. You can't go back. You just can't go back and change things. I didn't mean to do that. Like, I'm a good person. I really didn't mean it. I would never do that normally. I should have did this. I shouldn't have did that. You just can't go back. Because trust me, if you could, I would have gone back 1,000 times. A mere 2-minute difference in our timeline, these kids would still be here. It was that simple of a thing, but it didn't work out like that. So I had to come to a point in life where, I have a very strong relationship with the Lord. I've been a Christian for 36 years. I was so broken, it took me a while to even be able to begin to cry out to God. I was so broken, I couldn't pray, I couldn't reach out, but after some time, the Lord did some things in my life to be able to slowly begin to give me my hope back, because I was so hopeless. I didn't think I would ever have anything in life to look forward to. Life as I knew it, that life is gone. I can never have that life again of 9 kids here. That's gone. But as I began to get my hope back and began to restore my relationship with the Lord, I finally got to a point where I said, okay, Lord, you saved me from this. I do not understand why this happened. I will never understand why these types of things happen. We just live in a fallen world. But once I came to the point and I said, okay, you saved me for something. I said, what is it that you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Whatever that is, the answer is yes. So being able to speak here, I believe, is a part of why I was spared, to make a difference in people's lives, to help people make better decisions, because we all know decisions have consequences. But it's not so much the things we did, the mistakes we made, the bad decisions we made. Of course, they're going to have consequences, but it's what you do with it after. What are you doing with it after? that's where that's the things that matters. And if we can all just, you know, learn and repent and really change our ways. Because, if you don't take this story in, like if it doesn't make a change in your heart, it's just another story. It's just another story. But when we take these things in and we can really make life changing decisions, in our heart and truly begin to do things different, what a, that's where it's all at. What a blessing that is. So this was a hard day. This is the day of the funeral, um, triple funeral. Katie had to get together 18 pallbearers.
When I picked,
Yeah,
when I picked out the caskets, he told me, he said, let me make a phone call and make sure they have 3 in stock. 18 pallbearers, 6 for each kid. And it just, now looking back at the paperwork of planning a triple funeral, I don't know how I did it. Thankfully, our church, which is also connected to the school that the kids went to, stepped in a huge way. The principal of the school and the former pastor of the church, just, I don't know how I would have did it without them. They helped me so much. I just had to tell them what we wanted, pick the songs. They arranged everything, made slideshows. It was a beautiful funeral, if funerals can be beautiful. I don't even know how she was able to get through that day, being so broken in the wheelchair, hugging people, reaching up and hugging them all day. And it was an all day event. Just a horrible day though.
Yeah.
And then this is just another video just to show more of their personalities. Some of them might be duplicate videos.
Never be so kind, get to be clever. Never be so clever, you forget to be kind. And if I didn't know better, you would talking to me now. If I didn't know better, I think you were still around. I didn't say it, I didn't say it. You're right, right in my head. I didn't say it, I didn't say it. You're right, so right. Never be so polite, you forget how.
Mm-hmm.
Such power, you forget to be polite. And if I
Talk about the dash thing next.
The what? The dash.
Oh yeah, it's gonna come up.
Next.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I know better, I think you were still around. I didn't say it, I didn't say it. You're right in my head. I didn't say it, I didn't say
Baby
it.
girl.
You're right,
Baby girl.
right.
See, I would never see who was working.
Mm.
We can add it to the slideshow just to kind of
Mm-hmm.
show just
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't talk about it as another death that
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Asked you to write it down, maybe. Should've kept a close restore receipt. 'Cause every scrap of you would be taken from me. Watched as you signed your name, Marjorie. All your closets cracked off dreams. Now you left them all with me. I didn't say it,
So I don't know if we mentioned either. I just want to let everyone know that there were 5 deaths that night. There were my 3 children, the drunk driver, and further down the road they were diverting traffic and an elderly gentleman rear-ended a state trooper patrol car. We're assuming he might have been blinded by all the lights. So one night, 5 deaths that night. So I just had wanted to mention that as well. So Lindy Simmons, October 24th, 2001 December 17th, 2021. Christopher Simmons, October 18th, 2004 December 17th, 2021. Cameron Simmons, January 27th, 2006 December 17th, 2021. So the dash is what we are living now. Every single one of us will have that final date stamped, and we don't know when that will be. So what you are doing now consists of your dash. What decisions will you make? What will you do? What will you contribute to this world? What will you do with people that are in your life? The dash is what contributes to your legacy. Unfortunately, the guy that killed my kids that night, his legacy is he's pretty much in my book known as a murderer. You know, he chose that night to get behind the wheel drunk, and I don't think it was his intention that when the day started, but that's how it ended, you know. So what we do in our dash, you know, really needs to begin, you know, now. You know, everything we do leads up to our legacy. Every decision we make, how we interact with people, you know, what we do with the people we love, you know, what we do with perfect strangers, you know, everything we do now, we are living in that dash, because every single one of us will have that final date stamped, but none of us know when that day will be. You know, there are 2 sides to this coin. You know, either, you know, we could be the one who makes that bad decision and causes this for another family. I can't even imagine the weight. I just can't even imagine the weight of that. Or, like us, we were doing nothing wrong that night. We had our seatbelts on. We were doing the speed limit. We were just trying to get home from a basketball game. You know, I'm not a preacher. I'm just a mama who loved her kids with all her heart. And I just want to tell you that none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. That if God moves on your heart, do not just blow it off. I mean, I know where my kids are. I know where they are. My relationship with the Lord has been my lifeline to surviving this. I have had to dig in deeper than I ever have known, than I ever have, to be able to, you know, touch the heart of Jesus, and he walks with me through this every single day. I, believe it or not, I trust him more today than I ever have in my life. Would I have chosen this? Absolutely not. But life, you know, we live in a fallen world. Sometimes these things happen that we just don't understand. But, you know, we just all need to be aware every day that every day we are living in that dash, and everything we do will eventually lead to our legacy. These kids have a beautiful legacy. They have achieved more in their short life than a lot of people do in a lifetime. So this is actually the crash site. This marks the spot where my life was forever changed. My whole family's life was forever changed. This is the little crosses that we have on the side of the road at the crash site. As you can see, it's just on an interstate. I mean, literally in the middle of nowhere. I can go to that crash site today and I will find pieces of my vehicle. about 2 months ago, my husband and I had went to the crash site. We had reinforced the crosses because one of them had been falling. And I was just walking around in the grass on the side while he was doing it. And about 150 feet away, I found my battery with a big piece of metal attached to it buried beneath the ground. So, the impact of that crash was just, my car literally disintegrated. So that's a picture of the crash site. And this is their resting place. I go there every single day that I'm in town. Of course, I won't be able to go there today while I'm here. But when I don't go, it's my husband's duty. He has to go. And I used to be, just such a hands-on mom, just having to do stuff all the time. So I go every day and I clean it and make sure no grass is around it. And, I'll wax the marble.
She
and
has a grave cleaning kit in her car.
Yeah, I keep a grave cleaning kit in my car.
If y'all need recommendations.
Yeah, I have. I'm the cemetery lady. I can tell you what's going on at the cemetery because I spend so much time there. I actually purchased the next 2 spots for me and my husband. So I was telling her when it's time for me to go home, I'm gonna just feel right at home because I'm there so much. But Lindy was I don't know if y'all ever heard of the jewelry Kendra Scott jewelry, but she was a Kendra Scott fan from a little bitty girl. And I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but when Katie designed their headstones, we did them different because they were so young, just so full of life. I just didn't want to put like a little ceramic picture on their headstones. It just didn't seem right. So when Katie designed it, Lindy loved jewelry. So we put her like a spot for a necklace, and you could see the little rings and carved into the granite. And on her birthday last year, Kendra Scott had gifted us with a little red stone that she has known for, something similar to the one that I have now. And she actually has a Kendra Scott stone on her website. So for her first heavenly birthday, she got her a little Kendra Scott necklace. And Kendra Scott has just been such a wonderful company. They just had this necklace made in her honor called the Lindy. So it's so special to us, just so special. Yeah, they have a beautiful resting place, but they shouldn't be there. They just shouldn't be there. And we had who had did this, Katie?
Someone on TikTok.
Yeah, had did a little picture of them. But this is their story. Things can happen so quickly that just totally changes the direction of your life. Our lives will never be the same. God is doing some amazing things through their loss. He's allowing us to do things like this. We go speak at countless high schools in Louisiana. Kids who were about to start driving that were Cameron's age, to just get them to realize how quickly things can happen. And, it just has such an effect on people's lives that we just really, it's our mission to hopefully, help people to make better decisions. I know in Louisiana, I'm not familiar with the area around here, but a lot of the mindset in Louisiana with people when they drink and drive is they just don't want to get caught. They're worried about getting a DUI and all what's involved. I hope our story will make people's minds change and say, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do that to another family. I will not do that to another family. And there's just a line that never needs to be crossed because of what can happen to such innocent children who had such bright and amazing futures ahead of them. So thank y'all for allowing us to share our story. it was just an honor for you to have us here and just remember their story. And they were some amazing kids. And like I said, I hope our story has really made a change in your heart and that it won't be just another story. So thank y'all so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I never made it through without time. Yes. It ain't starting today.